Hey everybody, Harold Fisher here, anchor and host of the Daily Drum on WHUR. Welcome to yet another edition of HUR at Home on WHUR.com and all of our social media platforms. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called the late Maryland Congressman Elijah Cummings the North Star of the House of Representatives. 1 year ago this month, Cummings died after a long illness. And tonight on HUR at Home, we're talking to his widow, Maya Rocky Moore Cummings, about politics, America, and a new posthumous memoir entitled We're Better Than This. Maya, how are you?
I'm doing okay, Harold. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Thank you so much for joining us, and certainly, a year after the loss of Elijah Cummings, certainly our condolences still are still with the family. It's a rough loss for not only the community but this country.
Yes, thank you so much. I've been overwhelmed by people supporting him and me from all over the country and the family. And so, it's just been lovely to see the outpouring of love for Elijah that still continues to this day. And now, actually, I'm just pleased to be able to be doing the rounds to share his final words with the American people.
And I want to talk about that too. I want to first ask you about your thoughts about what he might say about where we are right now in America, particularly the handling of the coronavirus crisis by President Trump. What do you think he would say about it?
So he says it all in his book because he predicted it all. Yeah, I know that you're saying, okay, how could that be? He died before the coronavirus. But he says very specifically when he was dealing with the border crisis and how the Trump administration treated those children being separated from their families. He said that Trump has a streak of cruelty that lends itself towards reckless endangerment of human beings. And so he would not have been surprised at all by the wanton endangerment that we now see actually coming from the Trump administration in terms of the coronavirus. He wouldn't have been surprised by how the president lied, the misinformation and the disinformation, the deflection, the everything from the bleach to the it's not that bad. He would not have been surprised because he took the measure of the man. And he found him sorely lacking. I think he even references the word evil in the book. Mm-hmm. And so with that, Elijah would not have been surprised. He would be screaming from the top of his lungs that we're better than this and that we need to do better than this man this fall.
We are trying now to navigate what's going to happen with the Supreme Court and the loss of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Your thoughts about what he may have thought about where we are with.
Again, no surprise. That's because the Republicans have shown their hand. And their hand is that they don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about patriotism. They don't care about, the laws or even democratic precedent. What they care about is power, the power to actually basically force their agenda, and it's a minority agenda, on the American people. And they're willing to do it by hook or by crook. And so we saw, the unprecedented stalling tactics that they used when Obama had the opportunity to appoint Merrick Garland in the last year of his term. And for them to flip around and within, the 40 days of an election say that, what we claimed back in 2016 doesn't apply now, is not only the height of hypocrisy, but it's evidence of their, what I call is asymmetrical political warfare, where they seek to make up the rules as they go along. And they trounce on every custom, every norm, every expectation, every law in the Constitution in the process.
Bit of a freeze there. You mentioned every norm. Please continue. We lost you briefly.
I see. In the Constitution and the process. So, it would have been a surprise to him. But I will say this as myself, not as Elijah, but as myself, that the Democrats, it's time to get a different game plan when it comes to dealing with these folks. When you respond in the expected way, then they take advantage every time. And so it's time to shake it up a bit.
That's interesting you should say that, because I remember talking to him at Morgan State University's gala back in 2016, and this was just a few months into the Trump administration, and he was, typical Elijah Cummings. He was, certainly expressive and emotional, and he was just really disappointed because he had an opportunity to talk to President Trump, and being, the man that he was willing to listen to what Trump was saying. And I remember he was quite, frank with me. He said he was just really disappointed as what he called the lies. In the very beginning, what did he think about the possibilities of the Trump administration before the roof kind of caved in on things?
So Elijah was ready to suspend disbelief. Now, despite everything that had happened through the 2016 election cycle, the terrible campaign, all of the accusations, all of the terrible rhetoric that Donald Trump used, including the grab you by the pee stuff, Elijah still made an effort to reach out to Donald Trump personally, to seek to establish a personal relationship to see if there was anything that they could get done together on behalf of the American people. He did it because he believed that it was important for his constituents. He did it because he believed that it was important for the nation. And so that's how we found ourselves sitting behind Donald Trump on Inauguration Day in January of 2017. There was a Democratic boycott of the inauguration led by John Lewis. And Elijah went to John Lewis and asked for his permission to basically break the boycott because he felt that strongly about it. So we went to a luncheon right after the inauguration, and we went up to Donald Trump. Elijah introduced us. And then he said, listen, man, the American people are being taken advantage of by these prescription drug companies. They're gouging the price. They're price gouging the people, and the people can't afford it. And what's happening to these people is that they're dying. We can do something good for the American people. Will you meet with me? And to his credit, Trump turned to Vice President Pence, who was standing right there beside him, and said, get it done. And Pence did. And Elijah went in and met with, Donald Trump. They had an extended conversation. But soon after the meeting, Donald Trump walked out of the meeting and promptly lied on Elijah, saying that Elijah had called him or said that he would be go down in history as the greatest president ever. And so Elijah did say that if you serve all the people, if you, become the president for all the people and not just your narrow base, then you could be a great president.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump, being Donald Trump, went out and said, Elijah Cummings said that I'd be a great president. And so, that left a bitter taste in Elijah's mouth. Soon after that, we started seeing all of the investigations of this, the whistleblowers, everybody else, from, the census question that was racist, to the Russian interference in the election, to, Ivanka and Jared's security clearances and emails. Elijah covered it all, including tax returns. Mm-hmm. It was his responsibility. And a lot of the things that we're seeing now, including the foundation of the impeachment, came out of Elijah's investigations.
You mentioned about a new game plan for the Democrat. The vice presidential debates are tomorrow. What do you think his best advice would be for Kamala Harris?
I think he would say, bring it on hard. Basically, cut into them on coronavirus, cut into them on the economy, point out the disparities, point out how they have lied their way through a pandemic, and point out how their lies and their misinformation has led to the deaths of more than 210,000 Americans.
Yeah.
So he would just encourage her to do what she does best, which is to prosecute the case. Prosecute the case. She's a prosecutor. Prosecute the case. And there's more than that. You name it.
Looking forward to it.
That's right. I'll be tuning in too.
I'm sure you will. I want to talk about the book for a bit. The title, We're Better Than This. Congressman, he would say it from the seat as chair of the House Oversight Committee, but he would say it, at his public events. That was his thing. Mm-hmm. But let's drill down. Better than what?
We're better than the discrimination. We're better than the racism. We're better than the poverty. We're better than the corruption. We're better than the division. We're better than every negative aspect of what we experience in our communities and what we experience as a nation. And so Elijah constantly wanted to appeal to our higher and better angels, that we, when we do better, we can be better, and we can certainly leave a legacy that's worthy of our children. And so, and the fact of the matter is that Elijah saw it in his own lifetime, the arc of how we could do better, right? Born into the segregated Jim Crow South, attending separate and unequal schools, being labeled special education as a kid. Elijah followed behind Juanita Jackson Mitchell when he was 11 years old, and she led the kids of his segregated neighborhood on an integration march, and they integrated the Riverside Pool in South Baltimore. And from there, he became one of the first cohorts of African-American students to integrate the Baltimore City Public Schools, going to Baltimore City College, graduating Phi Beta Kappa from Howard University, then becoming a University of Maryland law grad, passing the bar on the first time, rising to become a Maryland state legislator, becoming the first ever Speaker pro tem of the Maryland House of Delegates, and then of course rising to Congress to become one of the highest ranking members in the U.S. Congress, sitting on a very powerful and important committee. And so with that, in his lifetime, he saw the power of what can happen if you challenge the system, how it can transform lives, how it can lead to better opportunities and circumstances for communities that have been oppressed and disadvantaged. And that means that we can continue to do that, but we've got to apply the formula of persistence, the formula of resistance, the formula of making demands on the system, and the formula of expecting, not feeling like we're undeserving, but expecting better and doing better and being better.
They don't make them like that anymore. And it's easy to say that he broke the mold, but my experience with him, that he was not puffed up, he was not pompous. Mm-hmm. He was, in spite of all of the things that you mentioned and a whole bunch of stuff that you didn't, that he had achieved, and he was very much a regular guy. And I think that's something that I think people really miss about him specifically, but that kind of trait that many public servants, men and women, would strive to be.
Elijah would always say that, and it was his call. He felt like service was his calling, but he didn't take the position or run for the position for power or fame or glory. He never considered himself as self-important. He viewed himself as a true servant of the people, just a regular guy who was trying to make a difference in his community. And so I think people felt that. They felt his genuineness. They knew that he was genuine inside and out. There was nothing fake about Elijah Cummings.
Right.
And he wasn't trying to pose. He wasn't trying to posture. He was just trying to be the best that he could be, to do the best that he could for the people. And that was it.
I have a story I need to share with you. It's really kind of funny. My daughter is 22. She just graduated from Howard University. But when she met, and I say met, Congressman Cummings, I think she was 4. And as a parent, we try to, share with our children, the best of our community, even if they're little people. And I just remembered, I have to share this with you because it's so funny when, I said, sweetie, this is Congressman Elijah Cummings. He's a really important person. And at 4 years old, she just ran up to him and wrapped her hands around his thighs and just put her face into one of his thighs. And, because she was a little girl. And if daddy likes him, she likes him. And it was, and his response was just typical,
he probably started laughing.
Yeah, he did. Just laughing, and giving her a hug. And she was so sweet. But I think 4 years old or 94 years old or anywhere in between that, he was so genuine. What do you want his legacy to be? And what do you want people to take from this memoir?
So his legacy, I think, is severalfold. Certainly, all of the, I think that I mentioned to you that, there have been so many people that he's helped personally, where they feel like his help has made the difference in their lives. And you see it most viscerally in a program that he created called the Elijah Cummings Youth Program, which has been established more than 20 years ago. And it brings through cohorts of youth from disadvantaged backgrounds in the Baltimore area and gives them an opportunity to, go abroad and to study with a cohort and to get technical assistance and support. 100% of those graduates have graduated from high school, and 95% of them have graduated from college. Some of them have gone to the Ivy Leagues. You've got some on television as reporters. You've got some who have created nonprofit organizations, and some who are even rising to run for office themselves now. And so he's done that in a formal sense, but he's also done it in an informal sense in terms of helping people across the community. He always viewed it as his responsibility to be the bridge for young people. So that's one legacy that I see belonging to Elijah. Another one is just like when you think about, the story of the little Dutch boy holding his finger in the dike, trying to prevent the city from being overtaken by the water. Elijah was a man at this moment in time who is holding his finger in the dike, trying to prevent the country from being overtaken by corruption. He believed that strongly in protecting and defending our democracy. A young man, son of Baltimore, grew up in segregated Baltimore, who once grew up in a nation whose backs were turned to to African Americans, becoming one of the staunchest defenders of our democracy, is ironic in one sense, but also so very Elijah in another sense. That he saw that, that you can pursue freedom and the ability to pursue justice in a system that allows you the freedom to speak up and to challenge and to protest. And so that is why he believed so strongly in our democracy, and so very strongly that we have to make sure that it's intact for our children.
How can people get a copy of the book? Because I'm sure it has. Oh, there you go.
Yes.
There's that famous picture. That is the picture.
Yes. It's on sale in stores everywhere. Amazon, anywhere that they sell books, you can buy Elijah's book. It is published by HarperCollins, and it's literally available anywhere. At your local bookstore, you can get it anywhere. And so with that, I do encourage you. And by the way, Elijah wanted this book for 2 reasons. One, of course, to share his story, but 2, 3 reasons. 2, to warn the American people that they absolutely must vote Donald Trump out of office in this fall election season, because not only is he wrong for the job, but he's actually a threat to our humanity and he's a threat to our democracy. And then the third one is he wanted young people to be inspired. Any young person facing a challenge, he wanted them to know that, you know, he was a man, once a young boy who faced all kinds of challenges. And he wanted to show them that there is a method for actually overcoming those obstacles and that they can do it. They can do it.
Maya Rocky Moore Cummings, I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us. It's really great, to talk to you again. And I hope that, you continue to, to heal
Yes.
as the days and months and years go by. I really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Harold. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And I'm Harold Fisher. As always, I will see you on the radio. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of HUR at Home.